Hello, thank you for joining us here on Community Forum. I'm your host today. My name is Pamela Miles. I'm a life midwife and independent beauty guide with Lyme Life by Alcone. I have a really exciting show for you today, and I'm thrilled that you could join us. I just wanted to let you know that my intention with all of the things that I do is to encourage you to seek your inner wisdom within and to find your inspiration in all areas of life. And that's why I'm excited to introduce to you today my friend and the founder of Mercer, Sarah Shirley. Sarah,
Hi,
hi.
hi, Pam. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad that everybody is here. This is going to be such a fun show. So I can't wait to get started with all these juicy questions you're going to ask me.
Oh, I'm so glad. I know you have an amazing background, and I've seen you do a couple of live presentations on Facebook. And I just wanted to find out a little bit more about your background and your experience. I know you have experience with TV and live performance. So could you just tell me a little bit about yourself and your experience?
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you so much for that perfect lead in. So I'm Sarah Shirley. I'm a fashion stylist and style expert, TV style expert. So what that means is I started my career behind the camera. I gained so much industry knowledge that I was a source for media news outlets. So I've been on the Today Show, I've been on VH1, I've been on lots of local morning shows around the country talking about fashion, style, gift giving. Um, but I also had another big dream. If that wasn't enough, I had another big dream. I always wanted to have my own clothing line. So I started Mercer. And then this year, I decided to give myself a title, which was Empress Sarzi. So you can see that on the screen there. And we'll get into more of that later and what the significance is. But that is a little bit about my background.
Fantastic. Thank you. Did you, like, as a young girl growing up, I'm always curious about this. Is this something that you kind of had in the back of your mind that you kind of dreamed about being a fashion designer? Like, were you the kind of girl that was like doing the coloring and like you design things, from a very young age? Or is this something that, kind of came upon you a little bit later in life?
No, it's since I was born, I was obsessed with clothes. And color and fashion and style. It's always been a big part of my life. I grew up in a family that took style very seriously and trends, and we were always seeking out the latest trends on a budget, whether that was going to the Salvation Army or going to like TJ Maxx or, just finding cool stuff. And my grandmother was very stylish on both sides, actually. And one of the things that we did was we played dress up, fashion show, and photo shoot as a child. So I was always into it. It's always been my passion. So yeah.
That's so funny. I used to play real estate because we moved so much as kids that we like were so familiar with how to look for houses and how to say, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. So it's funny that, what you did as a kid and what you played with and what you put on as a, kind of an image for yourself, it's actually something you grew into actually too. Um,
Yeah.
did you seek out specific mentors or training in this industry, or how did you get to be so well established in this?
I'm a bit of a maverick, and no, I do not have training in fashion. All the training I have, except for a few classes that I took um, in fashion, it's pretty much self-taught. The classes that I did take, I took one or two classes at the university when I was studying architecture, were really amazing. I took a tailoring class in Florence, and then I took a few courses at FIT. But as far as a mentor, I mean, I feel like working at various jobs in the city in New York, that was my mentor, doing all that, reading magazines. I didn't really, I grew up in a time when it wasn't like acceptable to ask for a mentor or to, like nowadays I see kids like, oh, could I ask you some questions? Oh, I hear some questions. Could I jump on a phone? It's very common, but I grew up in a time when it was like everybody's time was like super valuable. And that whole concept of having a mentor was really, it felt like it was something that was out of reach for me. So no, I didn't really have one in my life, but I had a lot of them from afar.
Can you tell me a little bit about what inspired you to name your company Mercer, what your background is in terms of like how did it come up to you, and the brand itself? Like, where did that come from?
Ooh, that's such a great question. So the idea for Mercer came from this idea that I always wanted to have my own brand. And I wanted it to be 6 letters. I don't know why. I do, but I'm not going to share why. But it's a little bit witchy. So I'm going to keep this really PG-13. So I studied French. I'm a Francophile. I've been to France like 6 million times. So mer is the word for sea and sur is the word for on. And then, so that's Mersur. Also, it's half mermaid, half surfer. I love surfing. I spent most of my 20s and 30s traveling around the world surfing when I wasn't working and getting inspiration, getting inspired. And then finally, I love Soho. I love Mercer Street in Soho, and it's spelled differently, but it sounds the same. So it's kind of this amalgam of all the things that I love: mermaids, surfers, French, being on the water, and being in New York City.
I love that. I love that. Also, another thing that I've noticed about your brand is that it is incredibly visual, but it also is, to me, I feel like there's so much emotion behind it. Can you tell me about how do you infuse emotion into your branding, into your textile fabrics? I mean, there's so many things about your brand that just I feel are emotive. How did you do that?
Ooh, that's such a great question. So bringing emotion to your brand. So I worked for some really big companies, that mass produce things. I worked for some really big department stores that are like mass producing. I I loved infusing soul into those pieces. I would do a fashion show for one of the biggest department stores in the country, and I would just like keep layering and keep adding till it felt like it was alive because um people like you put your clothes on the floor, or you throw them on a chair and they're kind of dead. And so like this feeling of bringing life into clothing, and I feel like as a stylist, when like a lot of clients will say, oh, I don't like that, and I'm like, no, try it on, you're really going to like it, because they breathe life into it. I'm a yoga teacher, so I understand how the body works, and understand how to breathe life into our bodies, because even I'm sitting here like this, and then when I go like this, it's like you can feel my energy because I'm breathing life. So that's one thing. Just the energy of clothing, the energy of an image. I'm also a fashion stylist, so I've worked in imagery for many years, and one of the things we say, like, oh, she looks dead, it's like she doesn't have a smile on her face, or she doesn't look like she's enjoying what she's wearing, or that pose. And so it's like we always want to feel like we can bring life into a dress, into a shot, into anything. Bringing life into the twilly, by adding more twillies. These are our bracelets. So I think, and then the other thing is when I was, working in corporate America, I remember just wearing like tight clothes that always felt really restrictive. And when I got home, I was like, I cannot wait to get these off. And so one of the things I thought, well, like I developed this whole dream life that I wanted to have while I was like living in New York. I wanted to feel like I was always on vacation. So I wanted to dress that way. I love pretend. It's one of the things I played a lot. We talk about playing as children, playing different roles. You played real estate. I played fashion designer or photo shoot. I didn't even know there was words for photo shoot. I just know I liked it. So yeah, just breathing energy, life, playfulness into everything that you do. And that's what I try to do with everything at Mercer, whether it's me, whether it's the people that work for me, our bags, our products, bringing the products to life through a Facebook Live, telling the stories. Just everything has to have an energetic quality to it.
Can you tell me a little bit about your audience? Like, who is it that you are specifically dressing, or that appreciates your fashion and your designs, so that to see if someone could identify as someone that could potentially be your audience? Like, Do you have that in mind when you're designing things? Tell me a little bit about that.
That is a really amazing question as an entrepreneur, to feel like, who are you marketing to? Who is your audience? And when you're first starting out, you don't really know. It's good to start out with the demographic in mind, but you will see that that changes, and who you think your demographic is kind of changes. So I think that I always like to say our ideal customer, and we actually just did an exercise, as a company, about who our ideal customer is. And it's not necessarily an age or, like a price range. She's someone who's attracted to an ideal lifestyle, somebody who's attracted to bold colors, or someone who's attracted to me and what I stand for, someone who's attracted to entrepreneurialism, or someone who's attracted to women who support other women. So those are some things that we try to talk about, but really we want everybody to feel welcome at Mercer. And that's something that's really important to us, is that everybody feels included. It is, I really don't like that approach to marketing, that there's this ideal customer out there, because sometimes you have a customer and you didn't even know you wanted a customer like that. And that to me is like such a good feeling when you're in business and you're like, wow, I never thought this type of person would be attracted to my brand, or this, this demographic, or this age range. It's cool. It's really cool to see it unfold.
I love that, because I think what you're also pointing out is that as a designer, you're really focused on the feeling of the brand, and you're focused on what you as a creative person can convey, and you're open to whoever may want to receive that from you, right?
Yes. And that is such a good point, Pamela, that I'm open to who is open to receiving this energy. It is an energetic vibration. It is about a connection. I want to feel connected to my customer at every single point along the process. And sometimes, again, because I have a background in working in editorial, I have a background in working in retail department stores, sometimes you don't get to make that connection. And I feel like that was my word of the year, 2 years ago, was connection. And I feel like it's really important to feel connected to your customer. And I feel like that's something that's really, really important to my brand. And we cultivate those connections really deeply with our customer. And we have a really significant return rate at Mercer.
Return as in connection, not return of the product, return use of the products, returning to purchase more.
Yeah. Yes, returning. The customers will come back to the store. Right. They'll come back to our website. They'll come back to our Facebook Lives. They will come back to purchase something over and over again. Yes, that's a really good point. Not returning merchandise. No, we've only had like 3 returns. I think we've had 2 to 3 returns in the history of our company. Like,
oh my gosh.
And I know exactly who those customers are. Like, I remember the moment because it's so few, and it was like maybe they bought 3 dresses and returned 2, or it's
that's incredible.
It's so minimal. It's like I can tell you who they are. I'm not going to name them, but we've only had 3 returns ever.
So that really says a lot. And maybe you could share a little bit with our viewers that are entrepreneurs and that are interested in learning more. Like, how is that possible? What do you attribute that to for yourself?
I've never answered that question. And that's what I love about interviews, is you discover and learn so much about yourself when you're being interviewed. I would equate it to really displaying the products honestly and correctly, juicing them up, bringing life to them, whether I'm talking about them on a Facebook Live, whether I'm in person and I'm working with the customer, whether they're buying something over the internet. I worked at one of the biggest online retailers in the world, so I understand how to shoot and describe products. And when you have more information versus less, people feel more comfortable buying it. When you have well-lit photography. Also, I think a lot of people feel personally connected to me and my story. And, they're not just buying something from a warehouse, they're buying something from me. So I would equate that, and just spending a lot of time in making people, I want people to feel really sure about what they're purchasing and very intentional about it. Very intentional. Like they are very aware, and it's a very cerebral experience when you're purchasing something from Mercer.
You bring up a really good point. And I don't know if you have seen this research, but when someone is planning a vacation, and your brand is basically lifestyle of vacation, right? They actually have done studies that say that people enjoy the planning of a vacation even more than the actual realization of the vacation. Some of that, could be due to the stress of travel, unknown. You have an expectation. You go to the hotel and it's just not the same as the picture was in the brochure. And so I'm just imagining that a lot of what you're putting time into is actually setting up the expectations and allowing someone to appreciate the experience of feeling like on vacation without actually having to go on vacation. Would that be accurate to say that?
Yeah, that is, we want to parlay that feeling that, you can create the feeling of vacation even when you're working. You can put a beautiful scented candle on your desk. You can put beautiful flowers or a feather. You can dress like you're on vacation. And it might not always be a tropical vacation. It could be like, today I'm channeling my French vibe, like my cafe vibe. So I'm feeling like I want to go to a cafe and just like people watch. So it's like, and I have my little French scarf on. So I want people to feel that. And I want people to invest in play. And, as a fashion designer, as a creative director, I worked on editorials for years, in magazines. And it was always like, oh, we're envisioning the woman going here, or we're envisioning her going to the grocery store like this and having fun, like dressing up and making her life exciting, like making life feel really playful. Like, why not put a beautiful dress on to go to the grocery store to buy all your beautiful food that you're going to be cooking and eating and putting into your body? Like, why not make this a really holistic experience for yourself, a very sensory experience? And that's what I think is really important, is to feel all of our sensations, all of our senses.
Oh, I love that. And, you're kind of pointing out another thing, which is like, because I know that you've described the silk and the locations that that have inspired you and the sourcing that you have. Like, tell me a little bit about the selection process for how to decide if something's going to elicit a sensory experience.
Ooh, I love talking about feelings and senses. Well, like, we all know what it feels like to get into like a juicy bed, right? Like that's got really nice sheets. We all know what that feels like, whether it's been in a hotel or it's at someone's house or your own home. And that feels so good. And I want to feel that way all the time. When I put clothes on, I want it to feel super good. So like, a silk, it's like when you put on a silk dress that's 100% pure silk and it doesn't have a lining in it, it feels really tremendous. Or you put on like a freshly pressed cotton garment and it smells really good. It just feels so good. So I think the feel of the fabric is super important to me. I have touched so many garments in my life, and if it doesn't feel good to me, I don't want to put it on my body. So it's like, that's where the conversation of how do you want to feel in your clothing. So it's like, how do you physically want to feel? And then physically, like what story do you want to tell? Like I think of creating garments and creating outfits like a painting. I want like a texture. I want like a little polka dot, like a little muted color in the background, a pop, like I've got my sparkly ring on. So you want a lot of texture. You want the eye to travel, right? You want to create excitement. Yeah. And I believe in like layering a delicious outfit. So I think it starts with it always for me starts with how the fabric feels. And then the first collection I designed was really about highlighting one body part of a woman. So, whether it's like, if it's a short garment, it's all about the leg and then everything else is kind of covered up, or it's got like a nice seaming silhouette, or, we had another dress that's like long to the floor, but it has like a very revealing slit in it. So it's like subtle sexy, like it's sultriness, which is a feeling I really like, because that outward, like, Vegas sexy is not my jam, even though I appreciate it. I like a subtle sexiness, I call it sultry. It's like high-end sexy. It's super flirty and subtle. So I think that, when you're designing clothing, it's always, for me, it's about where she's going, what she's doing, and how she ultimately wants to feel. It's a feeling transformer. Getting dressed can transform your feelings. I always say, don't dress for the life you have, dress for the life you want. Don't dress like, if it's a rainy day, don't dress like gloomy. Dress like bright. Like, transform your feelings by the way you dress.
I love that. I love that suggestion. That's brilliant. I'm wondering, a lot of designers have gone from fashion, handbags, accessories, jewelry into lifestyle. Now, whether you're planning on venturing into lifestyle or not, what would you say are some of the ways that you personally take what you've done in your creative life, and how do you use that in your daily life? How do you bring that into your lifestyle? Like, do you have any suggestions for people that maybe, are interested in what you're talking about, but maybe they're not really in a position, to buy any, fashion right now, but they really like where you're going with what you're talking about? Like, are there any daily rituals or any things that you surround yourself with that you feel, would be helpful to the audience members?
Yeah, no, there's so much. I mean, to be an entrepreneur, is probably the most amazing workout you'll ever give yourself, from mentally to physical stamina to emotional stamina. You have to deal with so many things on a daily basis. So we have this thing at Mercer called the Mercer Method. And we share the Mercer Method with all of our Mercer muses. So we have a lot of amazing content for our community, for our fans, for our customers. Like I said, it's all inclusive here at Mercer. It's exclusive but inclusive. So we want everybody to feel really welcome. So we just launched this free Endless Summer Planner, and it's a free planner that we share in our community, whether it's online or on our Facebook channels. And it's about planning the summer of your dreams and how you want to feel. And it's a Mad Lib style, so it's really fun to do it with someone else. Like, to ask somebody, like, where are 3 places you want to go, or 3 ways you want to feel, and they don't know the context. And we have Monday motivation. We have all kinds of things that we do that we share with our community, because we want them to feel really good, and we want to share that. And that's my mission at Mercer, is to inspire as many people as I can. So we have lots of different techniques that I personally use, that I use with people that work with me, to feel really good. And one of them is we share brags, we share gratitudes, we share desires, and those are tools from Mama Gina, which I know you know who she is.
Absolutely. We share that. And I've had other guests that have shared about Mama Gina and the School of Womanly Arts. Absolutely. I think it's the idea of brags, gratitudes, and desires has transformed so many people's lives that I've shared it with. Absolutely. And I give me a brag, a gratitude, and a desire?
Sure. Okay. Well, I gave a new term. I came up with a new celebragging. So it's like a celebration, because a brag is really a celebration. For people who were taught not to brag, you can always use the word celebration. So I celebrate, I brag. I'm doing this fabulous show with you, and it's going so smoothly. So people out there watching, a brag is just something you want to celebrate in your life. It's something you want to highlight, you want to feel good about. I'm grateful I started Mercer, and I'm really grateful that I've been able to connect with so many people during the quarantine through these amazing all the tools and technology that we have out there. And it's been so enjoyable, and it's given me a purpose. So I'm really grateful for that. And I desire to open my store here in the Finger Lakes in upstate New York on the beginning of June. I'll say June 3rd. And I desire to inspire as many people as I can, and share our fabulous new products that we have. And they're beautiful. And to elevate the energy of the universe.
Oh, we need that so much. Thank you so much for your brags, your gratitude, and your desires. And I see it unfolding. I'm imagining this location, this actual storefront that you're going to have, because you've been a little bit sharing about the way you make people feel through that. So I'm imagining that like then they're going to be able to be in person with you and doing that. What is the advantage of that for you, would you say?
Well, that is connecting with the community, connecting with tourism, people who are passing by, going to wineries, going to their cottages, going to Airbnbs or B&Bs. So connecting with people that you wouldn't typically connect with, becoming part of the community again. You know, like this is a town I summered in, and so it's like really fun to connect with everybody locally in person, and then to feel and see their reactions when they walk in the store. Like it's a really extraordinary experience. It's very different than the experience when you're doing live TV or you're doing a Facebook Live or any kind of screen technology. You can't really see people's reaction unless you're in a live audience. I mean, even then you're so in the moment that you can't really see people's like faces. So I think like just seeing how people interact and all the compliments and comments that I received about the store and how cute it is and the energy is good and they love the furniture and the colors, and it's really fun to get that feedback and to feel to feel someone's energy transform when they walk in the store, to witness that.
And I know you've mentioned that you've been experienced in the retail environments as a stylist. So I imagine you've had a lot of time to really envision for yourself what your environment that you're going to produce and what it's going to evoke for people.
Yeah. So as an industry expert, I spent a lot of my time shopping, comparative shopping. As a fashion designer, when I worked, for different brands as a fashion designer too, that was what we would do, is we would go to stores and we would go on inspiration trips, to our cities that our product did the best in. We would also go to Europe to fabric shows, but we would, check out different products and like see what we responded to. And it's so important, to keep abreast of what is going on in your industry. So for any entrepreneur out there, it's important to comparison shop, to see what's out there, to make your store feel inviting and to, feel that when I go to a store and like the transaction is like kind of dull, I'm not really inspired to go back, So I feel like it's really about the user experience, whether it's online or in person.
So how can we get a hold of you? How can we find out about what you're doing and be a part of your community?
Okay, well, I would love for all of you out there watching to check out Mersur.com. That's MERSUR.com, or follow us on our Facebook page, which is Mercer. So it would be great. You can connect with us there. You can email us from that portal, and it would be great to connect with you. And I would love to receive any feedback.
Thank you so much for being a guest on the show today on Community Forum. We appreciate all the people that have been watching, and any feedback that you have about the show for Sarah, Shirley, or for myself, please, post a comment, like and share this video with your friends to inspire them if they're interested in becoming an entrepreneur, or if they just might find something of interest that Sarah, Shirley shared today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.
Bye. Thank you.